All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Real Talk with Coach Sherri. And I am so excited about today going with my first official live here on YouTube. I have done radio in the past. I don't know if I've told you, I did a blog radio show. It was called Real Talk with Coach Sherri. It was on Talk to Me Sports Radio. And that was from I did that for a few years, and a couple of years. I had 100 episodes. I had a show every Sunday night, and I had a lot of different guests come on, especially current and former athletes, to talk about life after their sport. There's so much that sports teaches you that can propel you and pivot you into so many different arenas, and just the work ethic of sports helps you to have success in almost anything that you want to do. And so I did that show, and I would have my guests come on, but the show started to become a little bit too much for me. I have children, I have a husband and a career. And so Sunday nights, 9:00, which was my day and time, 9 p.m., trying to juggle that, getting back in town from AAU tournaments and things like that was a little bit challenging. So I let it go. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and just talking with Sister Fifi Tyson. If you don't have her YouTube channel, I highly recommend talking with her, and just coming up with this relaunch, the relaunch of Real Talk with Coach Sherri. And I hope that you find a lot of value. What I used to say before all of my shows was get your pen and paper ready to capture some of these nuggets that will be dropped during these shows. I have an amazing guest with me tonight. I am so excited for him to be here. You guys, he and I go back and a few years. It seems like we've known each other all our lives, and I am just so ultra proud of him. He's very inspiring. His career, the things that he does in the community for others, his family, just everything he does is amazing. I'm pulling up some things on the internet. As you know, this is my first live, really, so it's a lot of multitasking, so please bear with me. But I do want to introduce to everyone Brandis Raley-Ross. Thank you so much, Brandis, for being here. And I want to thank all of my mods as well as all of my guests. I see Pandy's Hair Candy and More. Sister Fifi Tyson's in the building. Let's see, Be the Difference Clothing. Thank you all so much for tuning in. All right, let's see. Just bear with me, you guys. Okay. So what I like about Brandis Raley-Ross is that he has such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to networking. Networking is so very important in anything you do. And I've always told him how much I've admired his networking. I really wanted to come here, wanted Brandis to come here tonight so that he could share with you some of the tricks of the trade, some of the things that has really worked for him successfully, things that he's doing that's successful. And so, Brandis, I want to welcome you. And if you could just give us a little background of who you are. I have a ton of questions for you because I'm curious, and so are my listeners.
Coach, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and to share knowledge with everyone that's viewing. Just a quick background. I'm an entrepreneur, a professional basketball player. Just finished my 10th season. A graduate at the University of South Carolina in 2010. I'm a Charlotte native. Coach Sherri knows about the company that I co-own with my wife, Immaculate Training. And that's about it. I'm sure that we'll indulge in much more info about those things later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will. And so I didn't realize it's been 10 years. I was going to count up the years. So I have a lot of questions because I really want my viewers to get to know you better. I want to even get to know you better. You can never know everything about a person. And that's why I'm so happy that you're here tonight. So when it comes to basketball and school, I know how competitive it is to get. First steps is the college scholarships, and especially in the men's arena, because it's, a certain amount of colleges and a lot of potential players. And I have a lot of listeners that have young sons that play AAU basketball, high school basketball, or aspiring to play on that level so that they can propel as well. First of all, this is something I got from a couple of movies. I can't remember what movie it was when they said, when did you fall in love with hip hop? So for me, it was in 1979 when Sugar Hill Gang came out. I'm dating myself, but that's okay. But when did you fall in love with basketball?
I fell in love with basketball at an early age, probably when I was 6, between 6 or 7. I'm not sure, but it was when I got cut from the first team I ever tried out for. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time that I felt that, that pain of rejection. And I've always was told growing up, there's 2 ways you're going to handle rejection. You're going to either let it tear you down or you're going to kind of arise from it. And it motivated me. And I just remember that all I wanted to do was to prove to myself that I could make a basketball team. So right then and there, I fell in love with the game, and I just became a gym rat. And ever since, it's taken me all over the world.
Out, literally. Wow. So at that young age, dealing with rejection, what were some of the things that you did to overcome so that the next time you could make the team? Because I do hear that a lot, because it is so competitive, even at an early age, where even if you try out, you think, you do the playground and you do so well there. But when you try out for your school or for your rec team or AllStar team or AAU team, sometimes you don't make it. So at that young age, how did you bounce back from that?
The first thing I did was probably cry all week. I just remember my mom and dad just giving me those memories about how disappointing I was. But I looked in the mirror, I recognized that I wasn't really good at it. I just remember I wrote down a ton of goals on a sheet of paper, and I kind of just put it on the fridge and I hung it up in my room. And that was my motivation every day, to look at those goals of, okay, next year I want to make the team. I want to be better. I want to play more. And so I set goals for myself, and, that was my motivation every day, was to get those goals.
Okay. All right. So you were achieving those goals, moving up middle school, high school, and now you're in high school, and there's a recruiting process to get to the next level, which is college. So what was your recruiting process like for you coming out of high school?
Well, I would say my sophomore, junior year is when it really kind of took off. I've been blessed enough to have a ton of great coaches that helped me out along the way. Walter Akins, who was a former basketball player, he helped me out when I was in high school, and he really taught me what it takes to kind of be a professional, because he actually played professionally in Portugal for many years. So I kind of had a basis for what I needed to do as a player and how to attract coaches and what kind of style of play that I need to play. So, like I said, I was fortunate enough just to be around a ton of good people, a ton of good AAU teams, and I had good coaches and all kind of people around me. And once I locked in and my work ethic, and once your work ethic and your goals match and you got the right kind of people supporting you, everything just kind of took off.
Wow, that's awesome. When you talk about, your work ethic and everything and being around great coaches, that is so important. And everyone out there, I want to let you know that Brandis and his wife, Ashley, Coach Ashley, my family was blessed enough to have them as coaches for my 2 daughters, and for basketball, for AAU, and even high school. And they were amazing. Their work ethic, even as coaches, it really has propelled my girls. Even though they opted out of playing in college, it still has carried them through. It's made them competitive. It's made them still want to be physically active and in shape, So you taught them a lot of great work ethics that I think is missing with a lot of young people. So you were recruited and you went to the University of South Carolina. I always want to know when people, are recruited and everything in the school that they select, what attracted you to the University of South Carolina?
Well, I transferred schools. I went to Gaston Day School, and my coach was Sean Wiseman at the time. And one of the first things he told me was, where do you want to play? What's your ideal? What's your 2-year, 3-year goal? And I said, Coach, I want to play on TV, and I want to play in a Power 5 conference, and I want to play on a team of that caliber. And so we zeroed in on different conferences and different teams, and I wanted my family to see me play. South Carolina was close to Charlotte, and it was one of those schools that I had listed as a junior, and they offered me a scholarship. So when it came time to commit, I kind of had that foundation of already knowing, hey, I really want to play for this school. They checked all the boxes. I had a great relationship with the staff. It was close. So it's a no-brainer.
That's good. My husband chose University of Maryland, College Park for a very similar reason. He's from New York, and he wanted his parents to be able to travel if they could back and forth, at least to all of his home games. So was your family supportive in that way to come to your home games because you were relatively close?
Oh, yeah. My family didn't miss a game. My mom and my dad were at everything. So the family support was always there.
That's good. That's great. What was your major in college? And, this is something that a lot of people don't focus on when it comes to a scholar athlete. It's all about the sports, and that's all they want to hear about. But I want to hear also about what was your major in college, and what were some of your future goals as a student athlete?
Well, at the time, my major was sociology and a minor in criminal justice. And I was real big on some of the classes that I took for sociology that talked about the different systems and how families and how environments and stuff like that are created, how an environment that is a wealthier environment, how it becomes that compared to another environment which may live in poverty. So I was able to kind of see the differences in that because I came from a situation where I didn't live in a big house and had a front yard, backyard. I grew up in public housing. So I had a lot of questions, and diving into sociology helped me kind of look back in my past and say, you know what? My situation didn't stop me from getting to college, from getting to this stage. Wow. So having that as a major allowed me to understand that where I was going, no one was going to stop me, and that I was going to be successful no matter what. And it also allowed me to be able to reach out and help others that were coming up. So I've been blessed to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, so many. You've been a blessing to so many. Wow. So in terms of your career goals, I know that especially as a student athlete, your career goal is always to go to the next level. But now that you're 10 years in at the next level, if the next level didn't happen, what would your 10 years have looked like, do you think?
I probably would say maybe coaching, maybe something in, I really love media and productions and just trying to figure out how things are shown or portrayed. I was really deep into that. And I would think that if I didn't play basketball, that I would be probably some sort of maybe news anchor or some sort of owner of some kind of media company or something like that.
Yeah. Sometimes those things, especially now since you've had the success in your professional career, you don't necessarily think about that. But I was just wondering if you had those thoughts, like, what if this doesn't happen? I'm going to jump into the live real quick to see who is in the building with us. So let's see. I want to say hello again to Sister Fifi Tyson. Thank you for being such a great moderator. Big Bia message. Thank you for tuning in. Dining with Zion. Thank you. Bless Row is here. Let's see. And they're all speaking to each other. All right. Dining with Zion said all praises. Absolutely. Let's see. Be the Difference Clothing said, say that again. The right people will help you grow. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see. Thank you, Pandy's here. Candy and more also for being here and being one of my mods. I appreciate you. Okay, Be the Difference. I see a question and I'll be asking that for the next set of questions. So I'll ask you, Brandis, what she's asking.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. All right. So now I want to talk about your basketball and professional career.
Okay.
Describe what the draft and recruitment process was like for you to play professional basketball overseas. What did that look like? And was it after your senior year? Did you leave early? Like, what was that whole situation?
Well, after your senior year of college, everybody wants to play in the NBA. Everybody's kind of thinking that, the NBA. And I came from like an SEC school. I was scoring double figures as a senior. And, the NBA just wasn't an option for me. That draft year, 2010, it was a strong draft class.
Who was in that draft class?
John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins. There was many other guys, but I remember I think Greg Oden, Kevin Durant. No, Kevin Durant and Greg Oden wasn't in it, but I'm not sure about the draft class. But I just remember that class was very, very strong and sought after as far as there was a lot of one and dones. I know that the one and dones was building up with their team. So it was a lot of high school guys that were just 1 year and entering. So the process for me was just to continue to play basketball and, just try to find the right situation that fits most. So after college, I just can continue to train and continue to work out. And a lot of agents from all over the world were contacting me. And I'm new to the whole process, so I really don't know what to expect or which move to make. So, everything was just kind of not knowing what to do. Me and my father was kind of the only one that was really had been there with me the whole time, because none of the people that were around me at the time could really say, hey, man, you need to do A, B, C. Nobody really had a specific blueprint on, how to put yourself in the right kind of situation. So I just went to a ton of like G League tryouts. And I got some interest from some G League teams. I know that I had a great workout with the Clippers G League team at the time. They were out in Bakersfield. A guy saw me, and one thing led to another. I connected with an agent, and, he thought that going to Europe would be the best decision for me. And so I went with that. Okay.
I want to pause for 1 second. I'm just sorry. Gianna Gigi said, hi, Coach Brandis.
Hey, G, we miss you.
That's my daughter, everyone. And Sister Fifi Tyson said, I am so proud of you, Brandis, and that she was also raised in public housing and she understands. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to pause you ask also because you mentioned G League. A lot of people may not know what that is. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so it's the minor league system for the NBA. And it's so pretty much, well, now, back then, I think not even half of the NBA teams had G League teams. So there was a lot of uncertainty. So you could be in the G League at, playing on a team, and there would be guys 25, 26, 27, guys coming back from overseas, everybody trying to, get their foot in the door for the NBA. And the G League is very, very cutthroat. There's it's very, very competitive. And then there's some basketball politics also involved in it, as far as certain players that the farm team. So if for an example, the Charlotte Hornets, they have let's say the Charlotte Hornets has 2 or 3 rookies that were second round draft picks that aren't getting really, really good minutes. with the Hornets. They're playing behind some veterans. They're going to send those guys to the G League, and those guys are going to get, to play 3/4 of the game. And so if you're on a G League, if you've made a G League roster, and let's say I'm a guard, you're going to, if a guard comes down that's a rookie, he's going to play. And there's nothing really that you can do. You just got to kind of adjust and put your blue collar hat on and just work hard.
Yeah. And it's like that even on the regular teams too, because even if you are, well, they're all regular, but if you're on like an NBA team and I know probably even overseas, if they have a top candidate that comes in. So I'm just talking from the NFL perspective. If they have a first draft rookie coming in, they want him to produce that season, no matter how good, how strong, how still ready is that other person in that position. And so to me, that's really cutthroat as well, but that's business at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And you talk about the blueprint. If you were to create a blueprint, because I never heard of how this whole situation happens until I met you, but what type of things would you put in that blueprint for someone else that's in college, up and coming?
Well, the blueprint has to match your goals. And I think that's the first question. So for an example, if we have a young individual that says, hey, I want to play in the NBA, and obviously your work ethic has to align with your goals. So you have to be a tireless worker, and then you have to be intelligent about being a sponge and being able to accept criticism and being able to take info from people that have been there. But a blueprint would just be you don't become a pro learning from individuals that are not pros. And so, for an example, millionaires don't learn how to be millionaires from thousandaires. Like usually they get advice from another millionaire, or they set the blueprint for them and then they become a millionaire. The same thing with billionaires. So a blueprint would be for a high school or college student would be to attach yourself to somebody that's been there, to somebody that's played professionally, that's played at a higher level than you. And that alone is going to enhance you athletically. It's going to enhance you mentally, and you'll begin to see things different, on the court, off the court. So I think one of the most important blueprints would be to attach yourself to somebody that's been there before. A lot of times these guys, if you see a lot of guys that fail, maybe they do get drafted to the NBA, but then they flame out really quick. It's probably because who were in their inner circle, who was giving them advice about finances, about what to do off the court, what kind of food to put in their body. All those things matter. So the first step to any kind of blueprint is to attach yourself to somebody that has a successful story, a successful background, and that knows what it takes. Because right then and there, it's like you've got off to a good start for the race. And the rest is just on you. Situation, how you perform in front of the right people, and, what you do to kind of pass people.
Yeah, that's so true. And when you say attach yourself, you also are speaking about having a mentor. Yes. And that is so important. I know that was something that my husband was able to do successfully, to get a mentor, that someone that was so much older in the league and with a family, and so they can kind of help him with the ropes. So that's really good. This is all great advice. Let me see what else. I see Coach Ashley's in the chat too. That's awesome. All right. So what are some of your biggest accomplishments as a professional player? And I know you have a lot. That's, oh my goodness. People don't even know, Brandis.
Yeah. I would winning. You kind of play and you want to win. And for me to be able to have won in different countries, different situations, and anytime you're able to say you're a champion, I think that's the ultimate accomplishment. So I just would say being able to win, and being able to know that I invested all the hard work and all the extra work, and while I was home in the summer, I didn't take time off. I really locked in, and it all paid off. So winning, Coach, I mean, that's why you play to win, and no one can take any championships away from you. Plus, as an athlete, for anybody that's listening, from grade level up to professional, winners are always more attractive than anybody else that doesn't win. So if I'm a winner, I could be the third best scorer on my team. But if I won a championship, guess what? I'll get the same opportunities as some guy that was maybe the leading scorer of his team but didn't win anything. I'll get more opportunities than him because I know how to win.
Yeah.
So that was my thing.
Yeah.
Winning is why I play. Winning is why I train and work hard. So that is the ultimate accomplishment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, because they know that you've been privy in that locker room with all the talk and the coaching and the training and everything that a winning team was able to utilize. So when you say winning, some people might look at it like, oh, okay, he won some games over there. Brandis, I know you're not trying to toot your own horn, but I'm here to toot it for you. So exactly what do you mean by winning? What does that look like?
I mean, it's
what type of championships are we talking about?
So I've won. Well, in Europe, you win these cups where there's a preseason tournament in the middle of the season, and those are like championships. I know it's real big in soccer, football for all my Europeans, but I've won a ton of those kind of cup championships, and I've actually won many. I've helped the team that I was on win cup championships that have never won a championship.
Wow.
So I've done that a few times, and I've won, I've won cup leagues. I've won a few championships in Bulgaria. I won a championship in Montenegro, which was very, very hard fought. And I just remember, imagine being away from home for 10 months out of the year, and you get right down to that last month, to those last weeks. And it's just like, I've been here for 9 months. I've been working my butt off, and you get to that goal that you want, that ultimate goal of winning a championship. And when you do it, it's just, there's no other feeling like that. There's no other feeling to win a title, to be able to go home and say you're a champion.
Because that's a long season.
Yes,
and a long
exactly.
time to be away from home, 10 months. Oh my goodness. So you have like a regular season, and then you said in the middle of the season, there's a tournament, and then the season continues after that? Or what if you don't win? Is that like how does that work?
It's very similar to a Christmas tournament, and the NBA will adopt this philosophy moving forward. So essentially, you have these breaks within your season. For people that watch the NBA, it's similar to the AllStar Game. So just imagine the AllStar Game being like a championship game, or it being very, very important. And it is, in some respect, because there's a lot of incentives. If you win, maybe you get a bonus check, or in some instances, I was in a country playing, and every time that I had a very good game, or every time that I won, I got like gifts. Like I got new shoes and new clothes and, stuff like that. So, so essentially you play games up until December. You have like a 3-week window that you're free. And in that 3-week window, it's like a NCAA style single game elimination. And then you play at like a host site, and then they crown a champion, a cup champion, and then you resume your regular season.
Wow. That's awesome. That must take a lot out of a team, though, to have, to play at that high intensity, to not get eliminated in the middle of the season. That's amazing. So I want to read off the countries that you've played for, because I have some questions around those. Now, don't judge me if I don't pronounce them right. Okay. All right. So, and I would you consider yourself a journeyman?
Yes.
Okay.
I played all over the place.
Okay. Because my husband was considered a journeyman as well, having played with the Giants, then the LA Rams, St. Louis Rams, New Orleans, Charlotte, Carolina. And, but you get a lot of respect because you play with some amazing people during that whole journey. And you have I feel like a lot more flexibility, and you build more character as well.
Yeah.
So you've played with Slovakia, okay, Estonia, Greece, Estonia again, Russia, Bulgaria, Montenegro, and upcoming Hong Kong, Eastern China.
Yes.
All right. So that is, and you guys, I didn't go through the years. So imagine he's been playing for 10 years and he's played literally all over the world. And what are some of the challenges in playing overseas?
Many challenges. First, there's the language barrier that you always have to kind of overcome. And for anybody that's ever gonna get their first opportunity to go abroad or to play abroad, universal language.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught at a young age to be able to read the universal language, which is your body language. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times,
who taught you that? Who taught you that? That's amazing.
Yeah, my mom and my dad were big advocates on that. On for me, just growing up, on holding your head high. Even through disappointment, like we started off with being cut. The first thing my dad was saying, I just remember he was like, "Hold your head high. There are better days ahead. Don't let them see you upset, or don't let them see you slumped over. Don't let your body language. Don't ever show your body language. So just keeping my head high." And walking with confidence, exuberating confidence always. So that's one of the barriers that you deal with over in Europe is people are not going to understand you. So you have to be able to kind of read the body language. Whether somebody's smiling at you or kind of frowning at you. So that's the most important thing. And then I think just being able to adjust to the culture of your environment, whether it's how they eat, what they do after they eat. I've been in a Muslim country where, they didn't allow any alcohol. And I'm not going to say I'm a heavy drinker or anything, but I like oftentimes a red glass of wine or something like that. So I had to adjust to like, okay, well, this is, what they do in their country. Whereas I've been in another country where they drink alcohol with everything. They give you vodka and they're expecting you to drink it. And I'm like, I don't do this, but maybe I'll do it once or twice, but this isn't what I do. So you kind of be an open book and adjust and just adjust to your environment and just adjust to the food that you're getting. That's whatever the time difference is. For me, it's always important that I'm on a schedule. Mm-hmm. My wife is always like, make sure you're on a schedule, be on a schedule, don't defer from your schedule. So if I could come into a situation and understand where I have to be, understand this is my leisure time and build a schedule around it, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would say the adjustments are, the language, adjusting to the culture, the weather, the food, and then just making sure you're on a schedule.
Now, you were thousands and thousands of miles away. And I just remember you, like my husband, went to college on the East Coast, not too far from where you're from, so your parents can get to you, whatever. My husband was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Giants, so he was still in New York, in the New York area, and so his parents could still come to the games. But then after his first contract, he ended up going to LA, 3,000 miles away, and that was a huge adjustment to not have, his parents at every home game and things like that. So in addition to the culture and things like and religion and traditions, how was that adjustment to be that far away from home for the first time? I mean, what's the furthest in terms of thousands of miles were you away out of all those countries?
I would say China. When I was in Hong Kong this past year, I was 12 hours ahead of everybody back home. So a half a day. And like I said, being on a schedule, though, having that basis of just, all right, I got to get on the schedule because I'm literally, my mornings are your nights and then my nights are your mornings. That's how it was in China. So it was, for me, it was tough at first, and there's a huge adjustment. But like I said, you fall back on those principles, on those foundations, which for me, it's just, if I can get on a schedule, whether it's waking up at 5 a.m., calling my wife because I know she's available. She just got out of practice, being able to talk to her and just being able to communicate with my family, that oftentimes helps out. And yeah, but usually you're in Europe, you're 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours ahead, sometimes 5. And then if you're even further than that, then it's a big time difference. In Australia, you're even a day ahead. So I've never played in Australia, but imagine being a whole day ahead of somebody.
That is
It's
crazy.
Yeah.
I've heard of business people traveling in that type of time zone, and they leave one day and come back the same, but it's like a weirdness. I can't really describe it, but yeah, that's different. I see my cousin Kim is in the building. She said, that's great. And guess who else is in the building? Monique Scott, the Scotts.
Really?
Yeah. Thank you, Sister Fifi Tyson, reminding people to thumbs up the stream. I appreciate that. Okay, so I also wanted to share with everyone, they probably didn't know this, that you also have a brother that is a professional international basketball player as well, Corey Raleigh-Ross. How is that? And have you and Corey ever played on the same team, played against each other? What is that like? Could you imagine you guys being a professional athlete and your brother is a professional athlete in the same sport? How is that?
It's awesome. It's a great feeling, to be honest with you. We have some of the conversations that we have about basketball and just about where we were. We'll go from talking about hanging a clothes hanger up in the door of our room and shooting socks in that clothes hanger to, okay, now we're both getting paid to play. Like, look how far we've made it from then. And then like we talk about that stuff, and it's that's awesome. For me, I'm just happy that my younger brother was able to kind of look at me and see me as a role model and use the blueprint that I set for him and, be successful. And now he's allowed basketball to help him see the world. And now he's getting paid. He just had his best season of his career. He worked very, very hard last year. So
where was he playing? Where was he playing last year?
He was playing in Kosovo. Kosovo is a smaller Balkan country that's near Macedonia and Albania, but he had a very, very good season there. You asked me if we played together. We actually did play against each other. I was saving this for a possible documentary because the way it happened, it's a movie, really. He went on a tour team that I did with my company, and he was a part of the tour team. And a coach called him and said, hey, I would like to bring him in for a training camp. So he brought him into training camp, and at first we didn't think he was going to make it. We thought, man, maybe he's going to get cut. So I'm like kind of trying to pick him up. I'm like, hey man, go ahead. Sorry.
Why did you think that? Why did y'all think that maybe that would be a possibility?
That he would get cut? Well, I think the feedback that he was getting from the coaches wasn't what he thought. And for him, it was all new. And I told him, I said, hey, man, they may say something, but feel another way. You got to understand it's a language barrier. They may say not so good, but, it's a different meaning. So, yeah, that was it was a lot of optimism around that. And I just remember we were preparing for him to go home. And I was just like, don't worry about it. Stay positive. You'll get this chance again. So a day before he's about to leave, we're packing all this stuff up. And I'm like, I'm going to take you to the airport tomorrow. Like, you'll be all right. We're going to talk every day. The coach writes him and it's like, we're going to sign you. One guy left, so we have a roster spot. So, we'll sign you for the rest of the season. So, for him, I just remember he had his stuff packed up and he just ran outside and was celebrating because you're a professional now. So it was great for him. But check this out, coach. So we had a game 2 days later after he signed with the team, and his first game was against me, my team.
Oh my
so goodness. Literally he got signed, and then 48 hours later we're facing each other.
Oh my goodness.
We have all kind of behind the scenes stuff, videos of when we were talking about it. I got a video of us driving to the game together, and we're talking junk in the car. So I
Please,
haven't released that yet,
you
but
have to put that somewhere. Oh my goodness.
yeah, Ashley was there also. She was there visiting, and she saw it all. So I mean, it was a great story. And
Yes.
stuff that happens in movies, the way it all went down, you can't script it.
Yeah, that's so dynamic. And as I'm listening to you, when I get this whole situation into a situation,
Yeah.
when I get a little better, I would love to have you and Corey on, and then maybe even the Stiff brothers, because they both are playing international, and they are.
Yes.
Last I heard, their father told me they're on the same team. That would be so
Wow.
amazing to
I
have
know.
two sets of brothers playing. That'd be awesome. That would be a future goal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. I had a question in the comments by Be the Difference Clothing, and especially for what you know about the NBA, what would you have preferred, playing where you are internationally or in the US?
I'll know you can always go back and say, well, what if I've done A, B, and C? But obviously, it was always my dream as a kid to play in the NBA. I mean, that's what we grew up in. That was a part of my culture.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that was a goal, but I had to go where I was wanted. I had to go where teams were going to pay me. So it's there's 400 jobs available in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times guys are left out for whatever reasons, and maybe it's not basketball related.
Right.
There's a ton of guys right now that are making in Europe and China, all over the world. They're making just as much money playing
Mm-hmm.
basketball as the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th guy on an NBA team.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no difference. I remember I had a coach tell me, said, oh, there's no difference in the 8th, 9th, 10th guy on an NBA team and the top 2 players on an overseas team. That's why every year you see some guy from overseas on the NBA. You're like, what? Who is this guy? He was the SH, what, over in that country, and this NBA team wants him. So
right, absolutely, yeah. Now I know the statistics for the NFL. It's 1% of all college players make it to the NFL, and only 1% play long enough to become vested, which is 4 years. I think most of them play 1 or 2. What do you know the statistic? And the NFL teams have a whole bunch of players. 60 players. So exactly. The statistic for the NBA must be even less.
Yeah, it's even less for the NBA. I don't know the specific number, but I think it
must be point something.
Point 0.03 or something like that of all college players
and high school
and high school players get a chance to play. And I think it's not just the NBA, it's professionally, period. Like people don't understand though, the opportunity to actually get paid to do something that you love to do is so rare. And I look back on it, and you look at all these teams that you played on growing up, and you look at all these other players, and you're like, man, they never made it as far as I did. And you begin to think, and I tell that to all the guys I come in contact with. I'm like, count your blessings, man. Like, you're in a great situation. Don't ever take it for granted.
Absolutely.
This opportunity doesn't come to everybody. Like, understand that and take full advantage of it.
Absolutely. It's a blessing. And not only in sports, just period. People don't typically get paid for what they love to do. Exactly. So that's something no one should take for granted. So I know in terms of being a journeyman for the NFL, you play your position, you do your position, and you do it well. But with basketball is very cohesive. Like, the moving pieces are consistent and constant, both sides of the court. You know what I'm saying? So how did you adapt with continuously playing with different types of players? How did you maneuver and still excel? Tell us what's going on with that.
Just being able to adapt and being able to just being a student of the game, to be honest, and never wanting to quit. because I've come in contact with people, Coach Sherri, where they've been in a situation overseas and it didn't work out for them, and they would just, you know, call it quits. So for me, it was always, what's my role on the team? What am I being asked to do? And how can I perform this to the best of my ability? You know, I've been in situations where they were like, here's the ball, play your game. You know, you're the alpha. This is what you do. I've been in situations where they're like, we need you to be our sixth man. And then I've been in other situations where they've been like, you know, we want you to really be a development guy to work with these young players. You know, you may play 15 to 20 minutes, but this is your role.
Mm-hmm.
So just being open-minded about, like I said, about the opportunity that you have as an individual, not taking anything for granted, and just working as hard as I can and working as smart as I can, and just making the best out of any situation that I'm in.
Absolutely. You know, and those skills that you just expressed, and you know, being able to have that flexibility, that transfers to everything. You know, if you're working in corporate America, if you're working at a mom and pop shop, if you're working wherever you are, to have that type of mindset to understand what your position is and doing it to the best of your ability will make you successful in everything. And being open-minded is definitely key, because I'm sure you've had so many different coaching styles as well, you know?
Yes.
You know, and especially if maybe you've come out of a great coaching system and then go into another coaching system that wasn't as great, and you're like, oh my goodness, is this the end? What they trying to do to me?
Exactly.
The one when you said you were the alpha male, that made me think of Love and Basketball, when she went overseas to play, and she didn't understand what they were talking about in the locker room, and she said, what did they say? And they said, to give you the ball. So
it's true. I've been in situations where the coach didn't speak any English.
Oh my goodness.
And he would look at me, and I just remember one team I played on, and he looked at me, and you know, God rest his soul, but he would look at me and he would say, tonight be Kobe Bryant, or tonight be this guy. And I would be like, okay, I understand what you're saying. But yeah, those are the kind of things that are said. So, you
you would have coaches that didn't speak English as well? And yeah, how is that? Because aren't there other players all over the world that also play on international teams? Makes sense. In all the different languages on one team, like how does that look? What is that like?
Well, like I said, in that instance, the coach was older, so he spoke Russian. I think Russian was his language, and you know, he rarely spoke English to me, but he would say key things. You know, he would just say, hey, he would like give me a look, or he would say, go do your Kobe Bryant thing, or stuff like that. And we actually had a good working relationship, because he knew how hard I worked and he understood what kind of person I was. So, but like I said, you just got to be open-minded, and you have to understand what your purpose is and why you're there. It all goes back to winning. You know, I go into these situations and my goal is to win a championship trophy, because you can't take it away from me. If I could win a championship trophy, then I've exceeded all my goals, and stats and accolades. Guess what? They all follow the championship. They all follow the championship. So all that stuff will take care of itself. And usually when you come in with that mindset, coaches respect you and they see it right away.
That's definitely true. Monique asked a question. Do you foresee the NBA becoming a global entity, playing overseas more frequently?
Yes, I do. There's a plan in place right now for expansion. I think they're moving into Mexico City. The last 4 or 5 years, they played like preseason games in Mexico and in London. So about 15 to 20 years, I would expect there to be a team probably on every continent. I think, because if you're one of those $1 billion owners, and I'm thinking revenue, I'm thinking the merchandise, I'm thinking TV views, because that's what people are going to monetize now moving forward based off the pandemic. it's going to be how to monetize the tech, how to get more people to watch, and how to turn that into money. And so if you have a team, let's say in India, you have an NBA team in India, you're going to have millions and millions and millions of people following that team. And it opens up a whole different kind of market. So the game is going global, and it's moving fast. So once the team is located in Mexico, and then once there's a team in Europe, and you'll see it's just going to expand.
And Canada, I mean, that was a
Canada
test.
Also, yes.
That was a test. When you play overseas, do you have a region that you typically just play in that region because of the travel capacity? Or do you play everywhere, and how do you travel there? I'm asking a lot of questions at once. I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. There are different levels and different tiers you play on. So I would say for a beginner, so let's just say that your first year out, you typically play in a country where you're just playing in that country. You may not even fly into any of your games. You may just bus within that country to all your games. And as you progressively move up levels, then you play in cup leagues. And for an example, a cup league, I may be based out of, let's say I'm based out of Serbia. So my team's in Serbia, and I may travel to Spain, to France, to Montenegro, to Croatia. I may travel as far as to Portugal and Russia to play games. So it just depends on the tier that you're playing in. And not only for Europe, but that goes also for Asia and Australia, any of those other leagues. If you're on one of those top tier teams, then you travel all over.
Okay. All right, let's move into, in terms of travel too, did you ever use like the train and stuff, that type of system, public transportation over?
Oh, yeah.
How was that?
I mean, it's so different than what you're accustomed to. I've had an opportunity to be on a bullet train in China, which is unlike anything. I'm talking about 500, 600 miles an hour.
What?
And yeah, and just imagine being on a train and just full throttle. You've been on a roller coaster. It's like being on a roller coaster at the fastest point of the roller coaster. You're literally going that speed for 30, 45 minutes to the next city.
What?
I've been on really crappy flights where I thought the plane was going down. I've been on terrific flights where they were catering and there was a buffet on the plane. So I've had my.
Wait. All right, we got to rewind a second. First of all, the bullet train situation, 30 to 40 minutes. Do you feel it, or is the train just moving, but your body is regular? Or is it like on a roller coaster where your body is like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, what is that experience?
You don't feel it, but you're going fast. It's if you're on a plane, if you ever looked out the window and you see everything moving in slow motion, but like you're going at a different kind of speed because you can see cars. Like if you're on a train, you can see cars and you're just moving, and it's a total different way of traveling. And I think once we adopt that in the US, it'll help out a lot with people that are afraid to fly.
Oh yeah. You think we're going to adopt that here?
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's definitely coming. I'm seeing innovation, and I'm seeing a lot of construction now with people trying to put train systems in place. So even like in New York and places like that, you got to revamp your subway system. And I think eventually you'll have bullet trains that'll take you from New York to LA in like 3 hours. Like you can't see it now, but in about 20 years, that'll be an option over flying.
Wow. Now, okay, back to the buffet. I'm a foodie. What kind of food was on the buffet?
It was a flight to China. It was a great flight. Where
were you coming from? Where were you going from to China?
I was going from Europe to China. So I think I was traveling from Belgrade, Serbia. No, Istanbul, Turkey to Hong Kong. And they upgraded me on the flight. So I'm like in first class, and I go in, I sit down, they kind of pull this curtain back, and it's a buffet. And I'm like, wait, I can eat this? And they're like, it's yours. This is first class. So that was my first time experiencing something like that. And just, it was awesome. It was like sitting in the living room and you just had everything. And I didn't want to leave, before I knew it, I was there.
That is awesome. That sounds amazing. Okay, now I want to move up a little bit. Let's see. Be the difference said, I want to go on a train like that. I do too. I do too, definitely. Um, and Monique says, good. I prefer not to fly. Let's see who else we have. And so Sister Fifi says, has this journey made you humble?
Oh yes, it has. For sure. It because you experience so much and you see so much. And for me, I always reflect back and I always think where I came from and the motivation factors for me playing and waking up every day with that driven mentality. So you got to be humble. You got to take your ego out of it because I'm not in my own backyard. I'm in someone else's foreign country, and you got to adjust. And like I said, for me, it all falls back to just being driven by my goals and always having something that I'm striving to reach for every day. So every day I'm like, I gotta make this day better than the last day, and I gotta be good, and I gotta work, and I gotta get things done. I gotta hit my checklist. So I'm pushing myself to have that level of motivation every day, and I oftentimes try to stick my ego out of it. Take yourself out of it. Don't be afraid to listen to this guy or listen to this female, and if I can I feel like when I take my ego out of it, I go further with my goals and I go further in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I think I admire about you is that you remind me of my husband, how he used to be. And absolutely. And your work ethic especially is, he's the only other person I've ever seen have a work ethic like you. But what I would like for you to share is with the listeners, especially those that have young sons, young daughters that are interested in going to the next level in sports. A lot of times, they work really hard to get that scholarship. They work really hard to get drafted, and, then they think they've arrived and they stop. I know what I see in professional athletes, it never stops, especially if you want to have longevity. And yes. I've seen you personally still working out, still on the grind, even coming home for the 2 months. So yes. What kind of advice can you tell the young people that are trying to get to that next level and think that I'll be done, I'm good, just let me get there?
Like you said, if it depends on if you're striving for longevity, then you understand that every day is an improvement. Every year is an improvement. And like I said, there's a lot of specifics that goes into where you're playing at, what you're doing. If you're an NBA player and you're first round draft pick, you have 3 guaranteed years, sometimes 2, and you have to show improvement. And you can't get to the NBA and say, "Oh, I'm done. I have millions of dollars in my account. This is it. I've hit the pinnacle." Because guess what? 3-4 years from now, you could be out the NBA. You could be in a total different situation, and your opportunity is, you missed out on it. But the advice I would give is just to approach every day, every season as another opportunity to improve. And for me, I always like to take myself, like I said, remove my ego and just say, hey, when I'm 45 years old, I don't want to look back at the time that I had when my body was completely healthy and when I was playing basketball and getting all these opportunities. I don't want to look back and say, I didn't put in the work I should have put in, or I didn't take it as serious as I should have took it. That's one thing that I don't want to do. So thinking that right now, it drives me to, like, I'm looking and you can see the light in the tunnel. I'm like, man, I'm 33 years old right now and I feel good, but I understand that, like, this thing isn't going to last forever. So I have to work. My body has to be tip top shape, because I know some young 22-year-old who just missed out on the NBA is going to come in sticking his chest out, and I got to be ready to kick his, you know what. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it has to be some level of, it's what you want out of it. Do you just want to get to the NBA, or do you want a 15-year career, and you have a ton of other goals that's listed that you want to achieve? So, and that all falls back on to who's advising you, who's your career coach, who's in your ear. Because a lot of these guys are just like, I want to get to the NBA. And I'm like, okay, you'll get there. What else? Because
And
that thing can snowball fast.
It can. And I don't think a lot of people know the names of all those one and dones, just played out their contract, that first contract, and that's it. It's so many more than the ones that have the 10 and 20-year career.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many guys I played with and against that were first round draft picks, number one picks, and I'm just like, why? How did we manage to, back when we were 21, you were here, I was here. How are we? How am I ahead of you now? Like how's it happen? And it's just like there's self-content, and guys really, they didn't really have that passion. Some of these guys, you look at them and you're like, you really don't love the game. You were just playing it just to play it. But that love isn't there because, I could see it.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that's the difference. Just having an idea of what you want to do, and longevity is key.
Absolutely. Let's see. And also to have that longevity, not only you have to have the will and the work ethic, but you also have to take care of your engine, your body.
Exactly.
And, work out correctly, doing the yoga like Lorelei's mom used to do with the girls. And, all of that is important. Let's see. I see some people saying, Be the Difference Clothing said, say that again. People don't realize the power of the ego.
Yes.
And Kim Schuler, she said, right. How long you flying that you get a buffet? Yeah, how long was that flight? How many hours? Or
I think it was 14 hours.
Whoa, yeah, you needed a buffet.
Yeah, it was 14 hours. So I got a lunch and a dinner. I was satisfied.
Definitely. And Kim also said, it's good to see our young Black kings staying focused and never giving up. And Monique Scott says, so true. Long-term goal. Okay. All right. Monique, we get into that too. All right. I'm trying to keep this kind of like focused, but not. This is a lot more focused than it had been before. But before, it was just like so much information. And that's another thing, you guys, when you do like a blog talk radio show, you have a time slot and a time frame. And my time frame was an hour, and it was just full speed ahead. And I had to get commercials in and all kinds of stuff, and address, the callers and things like that. So I am enjoying this platform. Which platform would you say you are enjoying more, Brandis? The previous one I had, or this one?
They both were good, but this one is actually it's a major upgrade. I like this a little bit more. I think we're able to get more information in, and then it's it's face to face. It's good to kind of see you, be able to talk. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I can go a little more in depth. Like, we may have talked about some of these things, but we never went this deep. It was surface. All right. So let's talk about the international lifestyle. And that, for some reason, I was thinking about The Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous, that TV show that used to come on probably before you were born. Anyway, it just came to my mind when I said that. That's so crazy. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you what your favorite team that you've played for has been, because I know in my experience, our favorite team was the team we were on. That's just how it is. And so then once my husband retired, and people say, do you have a favorite? I don't have a favorite team. Because first of all, the business, and it,
Exactly.
and no, I don't have a favorite team. Okay, so what has been your favorite international country so far to play in?
I would say Montenegro was very, very nice. 80-degree weather. I was on a beach. The food was delicious. I actually learned to speak the language. I could speak the language on the level of a high schooler. So there would be times that I wouldn't speak English for a week because I picked up on the language.
Wow.
So I would say that, yeah, playing there was very good. And then I met a lot of good people. I had a lot of good friends and people to this day that'll write me and ask me how I'm doing and stuff like that. And my wife was there with me a lot of the time. She spent a lot of quality time with me there. And so Montenegro was great.
I hope to have Coach Ashley on one day in the future to talk about her experience there as well, because she coached over there.
Yes.
And so that's a great experience. Okay, so you said Montenegro, right? A lot of the places that you've been to, well, not a lot, but when I met you, you were in Estonia. I never heard of Estonia. Then you went to Montenegro. I never heard of Montenegro. I'm not sure if everyone that's tuned in has heard of Montenegro either. So tell us more about Montenegro. I know it's it's water. Coach Ashley used to talk about all the fish that they had. What type of fish? You know, what's the food like? So let's go first things first. Where is it?
It's so small. I think it's the smallest country in Europe, but it's a Balkan country. It is on the coast of, I don't want to get this wrong, the Adriatic Sea,
Okay.
I believe. And it's a small country on the coast, but it's beside Slovenia, I think Albania, all these countries, Croatia, Serbia is right there, but it's very, very small. It's off to the side, but it's right on the coast. It's like an island, and it's beautiful. It's really like a paradise.
Wow. I can't even imagine, because you said everything you basically just said. I don't know anything about the name of the ocean. I said okay. I don't know. But how do you get there if it's that small? Is there an airport, or do you fly someplace else and take a boat in?
Yeah, so there are many different ways you can get there. You could take a boat. People have taken cruise ships from all over, but you can get there by boat in many different ways. You could fly into Croatia and drive around there and catch a ferry and get there, or you could fly into the capital city, which is Podgorica, and then drive to the coast, and you'll be there.
And you said you learned the language. What's the language?
Well, they all speak, it's ex-Yugoslavia. So ex-Yugoslavia is like Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, Montenegro, all those countries together was Yugoslavia. And they all kind of got their own independence, but they all speak Serbian. So
what does it sound like? Say something.
So I would say, so I could say, right now it's night. So I would say, Dobro večer, or mi pričaj malo. That means, I speak a little, but yeah. So.
Wow. What was your favorite dish to eat there?
Oh man, the seafood was second to none. They would just give it to me fresh, but I used to love the white fish, and I learned how to fillet a fish there. So I would like cut the head off the fish and cut the tail and just fillet it myself and eat it with rice. And so yeah, that's probably my favorite dish.
Wow. And it was the average temperature 80 degrees?
Yes. Even in the wintertime, maybe it gets to 65, but I mean, you rarely got any snow. Palm trees and beaches. It's waters and mountains. I mean, it's an exotic place. When I first got there, I was like, there's no way that that I didn't know about this, but it's one of those places where you're like, wow, this is amazing.
And wow. So what was the place that you lived in like? What was was it an apartment, a house? What was that?
Yeah, so you kind of have like an apartment, a nice apartment, and once again you're on the beach. So I mean, yeah, you have a nice apartment, 2-3 rooms, 2 bathrooms, or sometimes 1 bathroom, but nice setup. Restaurants are all there. Really all you got to do is just play ball. there's food in the town. The food is great and the setup is great. You just got to focus on your job.
Mhm. When you go to the different countries to, you're playing for that particular country, and since you're going to be there for 10 months, that's a year, basically, you might as well say. Do you have to find your own place to live and furniture and all of that? Because here in the United States, if you are with the team, you have to do all that basically yourself, unless you rent something that's already furnished, but it's not always accessible. But do the team set you up with a location to live or something like that, or a roommate? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so the team usually sets you up with an apartment, and they give you different options. So maybe let's say you don't like one apartment that you're in, they'll give you an option to look at another one. And the place is usually furnished and stuff like that. But I've always been one to get there and kind of have my own Southern hospitality to wherever I live. So, I like always getting there, buying sheets and buying enough pillows, and then just making sure that the place, try to make the place like home as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. That's important. It really is. I know when we would move to a different team, and typically it would be when my husband was in camp, and I would rush around trying to make sure the house was situated so it looked like we had been living there by the time he came home, to be as comfortable as possible. Because all of you deserve that. You work so hard. You don't want to have to practice and then come home to something so cold and empty,
Exactly.
And so the people in Montenegro, how was their English? Oh, and just all over, how was everyone's English?
Their English was pretty good. They, especially now, and I played there recently, but they push their youth to learn English, and they're taught it at a young age. But everybody speaks it very, very well. But I was told, and I learned, playing many years, that they'll respect you more as a person if they see that you're trying to learn their language. Mm-hmm. So I made that like a point. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn what you guys are saying, and I'm going to learn how to speak it. And that way I'm going to come into this restaurant and I'm going to order food in your language, and you're going to look at me like, all right, we can't get anything past him because he speaks our language.
Right.
So
that is so true.
Yeah, but I met a lot of friends, and people kind of respected me because I could speak the language, and it was an awesome experience.
That's great. People that are from there, where do they typically move if they, move away from there? Since it's so small.
Serbia is a hot spot. Belgrade is it's a growing city, and there's a lot of stuff to do there. And Serbia, Croatia, Zagreb, Croatia is very nice. But like I said, people, you have everything there. I just remember I had one friend there who used to work with me with some physiotherapy stuff. And he said, we leave here and we go to other places and we look at the landscape and we're looking at how these other places look. And we're like, our place is better. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are like, this is paradise. Mm-hmm. Imagine being on vacation year round. That's what it is. It's because when you go on a vacation, you want palm trees. I want warm weather. I want water. And then there's mountains in the back. Like, this is what you're searching for, to be able to jump on a boat, relax,
Yes.
Like, that's year round there. So it's
wow.
Like, I was trying to tell them, I'm like, hey man, like where I'm from, it's different. Like, you guys, this is paradise. Like this is a vacation spot, but you guys get to live here. So it's great.
I love it. So I hear you, you're throwing out different words at us. And what I've come to realize, especially in workforce development, that everything that's common to you is not common to everyone. So some people may not know what a physiotherapist is. So go into a little bit about what a physiotherapist is.
Oh, wow.
You didn't think I was gonna catch that, did you?
No, I'm happy you said it, but a physiotherapist is essential to longevity. Back to what you were saying, they make sure that your body is your temple, that your body is running and performing at peak level. And so with my physiotherapy, physiotherapist, I would tell him, I would say, hey, I had some stiffness in my knee, or I got hit in the leg the other game and it's kind of stiff. What can I do? So I would meet with him. He would give me some exercises and I would try to get rid of that pain or that stiffness as soon as possible. But, they just help out making sure that your body is at 100%, whether it's getting your proper treatment, getting your ice, getting your heat. They help set me up with a ton of like massages. So, I mean, it was essential for me. I used to see the guy 2 to 3 times a day, and he would look at me and say, I see why, you're successful. You treat your body unlike anybody else does. So,
yes,
yeah, it's essential, man.
It is so important. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I guess for my next question, in terms of which country has the best food, would that be Montenegro, hands down? Or what's another contender?
And are
they not hands down?
No, best food. There are so many good places to eat. Actually, the best food I had was probably in Africa. I don't know if you said that when we were talking about some of the places I played.
Oh,
but yeah, I went to play in Africa for a few months.
I don't think it was on here. Hold on.
Yeah. Al Ittihad, I think, was the name of the team.
Oh, yeah. Liberia.
Oh, yeah, wait, Libya.
Libya. Okay. No, I didn't say that. Why didn't I say that? Because you did that before you went to Montenegro.
Yes.
Okay. So what was that like? What part of Africa is that? What country?
So,
where is it here?
Libya is, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best place to play in as far as what's going on there. It's a war-torn country. But, for me, it was a situation where the team had a very, very good owner, and they put us in a situation where we were away from everyone else or what was going on in the country. And then I had like a legendary coach with me. But, being in Africa was unlike anything else. It was also a paradise. And just, being there and being able to kind of walk around and see what was going on. And it was a paradigm shift for me. But the food there's second to none.
What was the food like?
First of all, oranges are red. Oranges are red. Bananas, like when I say a paradigm shift, I mean you're eating food, you're eating food from the motherland, right? And then you're like, you're eating everything you eat is natural. I mean, vegetables, everything is fresh. I mean, hummus, chickpeas, they got it all the sauces, spices, peppers. And I'm eating this food and I'm just like, my taste buds, it's like, I've never tasted any of this stuff. Like, you eat a piece of chicken here and you're like, oh man, but then you eat a piece of chicken over there, you're like, time out. It doesn't taste the same. And the fish doesn't taste the same. And like I said, oranges were red and bananas look different. And I'm just like, what's going on? What am I putting in my body? But I just remember I had so much energy there. And the food was so good. It was probably it's the best food that I've gotten. Just the selection of food and the spices and everything. It was second to none.
Did you cook for yourself over there? Do you cook for yourself, or is there someone that like maybe the team provides you with that can cook too?
Yeah, also oftentimes, so when I was in Hong Kong, you had an option to have other people get food for you and stuff like that. And, I also would cook for myself let's say if I had an 8 o'clock practice and it was like a high intensity practice, then I wouldn't go eat the breakfast at a restaurant that I could typically get. I know that I got to have some energy food. So I would prepare a different kind of meal for myself. So oftentimes, you do cook for yourself based off what's coming. And it's like being on a schedule. You're not just on a basketball schedule. You're also on an eating schedule.
Right.
And a schedule to talk to your wife. And so, there are different times where I got to prepare a certain kind of meal for myself, so I have a certain amount of energy.
hmm Planning it out, even for a person who's not playing sports, who has not played sports before, but are on a path to try to have a healthier lifestyle. It sounds like planning it out, be it your workout as well as your meals, is very important, and that's something that you need to do forever,
Yes,
realistically.
it gives you that. It gives you that basis of. It gives you that. It gives you that mindset of knowing what's coming. And I know
hmm
me and my wife have been experiencing with just trying to plan every single thing out, and especially with food, we know, like we know what's coming for breakfast. We know what we're doing for lunch. We know what we're doing for breakfast in the next 3 days. So just
Wow.
having that, having
Wow.
that basis of what's coming, it allows me to kind of move a little different, because you think back at all the time you waste, like trying to figure out what you're going to eat, or looking in the refrigerator, or you're out and about, and then you end up eating something that you probably shouldn't eat. It eliminates all of that because you know what's
Yeah.
coming. So it's
Wow.
yeah, it saves time. And then also, like you said, just for a better lifestyle, healthier lifestyle,
hmm
you figure out what works for your body, what doesn't work. You figure that stuff out quick.
Absolutely. My problem is consistency. And I know I don't eat enough because, and my body knows it. So it stores the food and it makes me hold on to it. And, so I know that when I do eat, I have a better chance of getting down in terms of weight. So but
Yeah.
I have to plan out. And when I plan out, it is amazing. It does take
hmm
out a lot of that guesswork, definitely. So with Hong Kong, what was that like? Because that was the last team that. Are you still with the team in Hong Kong?
So
Like what happened when Corona came? I know with here the NBA shut it down. They was one of the first people to shut it down. How was it internationally?
it's like watching a movie for the second time, because I saw it happen. Actually, Hong Kong, it happened first. I
hmm
remember I came home in February, and everyone back here were kind of doing their own thing. And I was like, I just came home and I had a bunch of hand sanitizer, and I was like, look, I was over there and something's coming. It might already be here. And I just was like, look, get hand sanitizer. I just remember telling my wife, I was
hmm
like, things are about to change real quick. Like, we need to go ahead and get ready. We need to get prepared because they're shutting stuff down. I was like, they told me that it's going to come here, and it's a pandemic that's happening. So I saw it firsthand in Hong Kong.
What was that like? I know I follow a YouTuber. Her name is Jamanese. And I remember when school shut down back in like January, February, and I was feeling like how you felt when you came back, because I was like, maybe I need to get a box of a mask for my entire family, one for
Yeah,
each. And people were looking at me like, what? You crazy? Why would you do that? That's not necessary. So you're exaggerating. And I'm like, I don't
exactly.
know. So what was it like in your experience while you were there? Because some people couldn't get out.
Yeah. So one thing that I noticed right away is that they had experience handling pandemics and stuff like that. It was
Mm,
literally 1 week we were coming in, everything was normal, and then it kind of got out of control. And like we were hearing in reports, so Hong Kong is like China's big mainland, and Hong Kong is like an island away, very similar to what like Hawaii is to the US, or what like the Caribbean islands. So you got to catch a flight into Hong Kong, you got to catch a boat. So they immediately suspended all the travel. They were like, nobody from mainland China is coming in here. And I just remember coming to practice one day, and they were like handing me 50 masks. They gave me all the protocols. They told me what they were going to do. And that was just like the normal way of life. So I would wear a mask everywhere. They were doing temperature checks everywhere. You couldn't go in and out of any kind of place without having a temperature check. You couldn't go in and out of place without putting on hand sanitizer. Um, Social distancing, not that much there.
mhm.
They just were more so important on, or more focused on identifying who was sick and separating them from the people that weren't sick. So I saw it firsthand, and it's funny because I'm walking around now and I'm like, man, I really saw this in January. Everything that I'm
Wow.
seeing now was happening in January. But
Wow.
yeah,
So So when you do the masks over there, did you have to also keep your mask on inside? Like if you went to, well, I'm thinking like at a work, if someone works in an office, like if you saw people, if you went to an office building and you saw people, would they have their masks on throughout the day in their office?
No, and it's funny because me and my wife indulge in these conversations all the time. So a mask is used when there's close contact. So let's just say there are 10 people in the elevator at one time. Like that's the time to use a mask. That way, if somebody coughs, it doesn't project out, or you can't cough on anything. The masks are really used for people that are showing symptoms of cold. So if you wear a mask, then maybe you're showing a few symptoms and maybe you cough and now you can't spread it. So that's why we were kind of wearing a mask. But like you would come into the restaurant. That's for an example. I would go out to eat with my teammates. We would walk into a restaurant. They would give us the temperature checks to make sure that we weren't running any fevers, give us our sanitizer. We would sit down. We would all take our mask off and eat just like normal. When we left, we put our mask back on. So that was kind of the protocol there. And it's very interesting to see people, because we've never dealt with it. So it's new for the US, but it's very interesting to see the contrasting styles of how we're attacking the pandemic.
Wow. So what about they didn't close their restaurants then over there?
No. They kept it moving. I was telling my wife, I said, we closed a lot. What they did close was they closed their swimming pools and stuff like that. They closed that stuff first. And then they closed the gyms and stuff like that second. And everything else stayed open. The restaurants, all other businesses, everything else stayed open because they knew about it. They understood what it was. They've dealt with SARS and they dealt with many other pandemics that's happened over the years. So they had that basis for how to attack it. And even when I was flying in, when I first flew into Hong Kong, like all the stewardess on the flight, they all had masks on. Even the buffet people that were serving me my food, they had masks on. I'm like, man, their hygiene level is a little different than the other places where I've been. So, it's just different watching how things are panning out.
That is something. That's a good take on it too. So what about with bringing in groceries? At first they told us we need to put our groceries and spray them down and wipe them down, and now they're saying we don't really have to do that. Do they do that in Hong Kong? Take that measure?
No, they don't. They don't. Like, to be honest with you, the way they got through it, and I talked to one of my friends over there, and they only had 4 deaths throughout. And Hong Kong is huge. Like Hong Kong is the size of New York, and they only have 4 deaths in Hong Kong. And they were just like, you identify the people that will get the symptoms, and you quarantine them, and then you keep the way of life the same. You don't want people panicking, and you just put a lot of measures and precaution. But no, they kept their businesses going. Like I said, they understood what it was. One day one day they were doing temperature checks, and like the day before they weren't.
Wow.
But nobody was fighting against it. It's like they all understood what it was. So everybody was on board. Here you may have 1 or 2 people that are like, screw that, I'm doing my own thing. No, everybody there was pretty much on board with what was going on. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting, Brandis.
I know. There's so much to dive into.
I know. That was like a little sidebar. Wow, that's deep. So I want to also ask you, since especially with the country in Africa, Libya, and I know you liked Montenegro, and you had I know you made really good friends also in Estonia, but in terms of the landscape around basketball, who had the best and worst gym?
I would say the worst gyms were definitely in Libya, because just the resources weren't the best, and they had one big stadium and you played, everything was there. But the best gyms I would say was when I played in the Adriatic League, and in this league we traveled all over, And so you would play in some atmospheres that were, it was like playing in SEC again, where there was 20,000 fans, 25,000 fans. So I've been blessed enough to play in those kind of atmospheres all over the world where there's people chanting. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see like a European crowd, but it's a whole nother level. I mean, they light flares and they throw smoke, and I mean,
Really?
it's different. Oh yeah.
Okay, so how would you compare them? I know that you went to the University of South Carolina, but I don't know if you may have been to a game that Dawn Staley is coaching at. I went to a
Yes.
game, basically standing room only. I've never seen a crowd like that for a females basketball game. Is the crowd like that, or even more hyped?
Even more, because not taking anything away from Dawn Staley, she's done a terrific job, but I'm talking about passionate fan. I'm talking about grown up loving their teams, and just imagine hearing 15,000 people all chanting, doing like a scripted chant for 20 to 30 minutes, and whether they're singing a song, and they'll all lock arms and start moving side to side. They're trying to rally their home team, and it's
Wow.
just like, yeah, a lot of that stuff. You're like, wow. And even when I was in Africa, I remember we played a team out there, and the crowd just started dancing, like they all were in rhythm, and the whole crowd were doing the same dance. And I was like, I've never in my life seen anything like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
What other countries in Africa did you play against?
So we played against a few teams from Tunisia, which is a nice country. Tunisia is very Americanized. But other places that we went in Africa were Benghazi. Benghazi is very, very war torn.
I can't believe they would have you go into those countries and even live in those countries that are war torn.
You'd be surprised, Coach Sherri, the amount of Americans that have played out there. A lot of ex-NBA guys, but in their defense, some of those owners out there, a lot of those owners of those teams are, millionaire guys from Dubai, and they own these teams. So they, for them, it's nothing to throw a bag of cash at a player that wants to play. So you get a lot of ex-NBA guys. You get a lot of guys that didn't quite make the NBA going out there, for those big paydays. So it's, when I say that, we talk about ego, put your ego aside. You have no ego out there, because it's like, I don't know what to expect. I'm just here to play ball, and everything else is.
That's so deep to me. Okay, I asked about the living accommodations. Wow, you've answered a lot of the questions that I had about the language and the cultures and the differences. When you were in Africa, did you go to anyone's home, personal home?
No, I kind of just stayed. The hotel that I was at was pretty nice, and my wife was with me. Ashley was with me for a little bit out there, but it was I just kind of stayed in the hotel. I didn't want to travel out a lot. I was unsure of the surroundings and what was going on out there, but yeah, no, I didn't go into anybody's home or anything. I went to a few restaurants, and I was able to go to the beaches out there, and I went to they had like a market in the city, and I was able to go see the gold that literally is in their rocks.
Wow.
I mean, it's there, and it's amazing.
Africa's a wealthy continent.
All the resources, everything you need is there. Oil, gold. I think they were telling me that oil was cheaper than water. Water was more expensive than oil. Something that they told me, and I couldn't believe it. They were like, "That's how much oil is here," and I was like, "Okay, everything makes sense now."
Yeah, that is something. I'm looking at some of the questions and comments here. Monique wants to know. Oh, I forgot I could do this. So true. Long-term goal. Do you see yourself owning a team overseas or coaching?
I do. I would love to own a team. It's been a goal for me for a long time. I see myself as somebody that would be very successful at owning a team, and not just owning a team overseas. I would also want to own a team in the U.S. I
Mhm.
look at these billionaires, these owners, and I those are the guys that I'm looking at. I'm like, man, that's the goal. Like those, my dad always told me. He said it's one thing to get these checks, it's another thing to write the checks. And he said, you
Right.
ultimately want to be in a position where you can write the checks. He said, because if you're writing $1 million checks to athletes, then it shows a lot about who you are. And so I've
Mm,
always taken that. And that's one, and he told me that before I got any scholarships or anything. He just said, you need to understand what this is. Yes, you're going to play basketball. It's going to take you a long way. He said, but understand somebody's cutting you checks. Somebody's
mm,
above everybody else. And he said,
right.
that's what you need to strive to be. So I'm going to
That's
own a team one day. I'm going to own a few teams.
I, I definitely can see that. Wow. Here's another from Be the Difference. She says, "How many more years do you have to play?" That's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm going to, as long as I'm valued and as long as teams are going to pay me great money to do something that I love to do, I'm gonna do it. And obviously I wanna be able to walk off on my own terms. I want to be able to win a championship and say, hey, I've had a great career. My body is healthy. Now let me transition to what's next. So I don't want to put a limit on that. I just want to enjoy the present and understand that one day understand that I do know that one day I'm not gonna play, but just enjoy, still being in it and still uh having that itch to go out there and play.
Absolutely, absolutely. And be able to walk away instead of being
Hmm.
carried away or pushed away.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. So this is all of this is my favorite part, but this is also my favorite part. Hmm. We're oh my goodness, this is so awesome. So we're going to talk about business now. Okay,
All right.
this is my favorite part about you because not many people do what you're doing, and it's just amazing that while you're in the midst of doing what you do with playing, that you had the wherewithal and the capacity to also develop and create immaculate training. um how did you come up with the name? And you've told me this before, but I want you to tell everyone. Do you remember telling me this before, just in a regular conversation? Do
I
you
do,
remember?
I do. But there's so many underlining little stories of why it kind of popped up. But why the name? Back in 2014. Um, my whole thing was, well, I was getting contacted from younger players that were coming out, and I wanted to kind of help these guys. I was like, you know what? Somebody help me. Let me reach back. Let me help these guys. Let me be a mentor or a leader and kind of help this generation get off the ground and help them pursue their goals. So that was my basis. That's what I wanted to do. And people were like, hey, we love what you do. You're a good trainer. You're able to work with kids. You're able to work with, high school kids, college kids. So I was like, all right, I'll, I'll, I'll do this training thing. And I was thinking like, what can I call it? And I didn't want to undershoot or undervalue anything that I was doing. So if you know anything about what the word immaculate means, it's stainless, it's perfect, it's without any flaw. And I said, you know what? That's how I want to be remembered. That's the kind of stuff that I want to be associated with. When you say Brandis Raley-Ross or Ashley Raley-Ross or anybody else that's involved with what we do, I want it to be like they do the stuff the right way, and the right way leads to success. So that's where the name came from, Immaculate Training.
Yes, I love it. So you guys, as you know, Brandis Raleigh-Ross has a company. It's called Immaculate Training that started in 2014. Well, you answered that part, but you were in the midst of your career. So how did you develop it? because a lot of athletes, especially as focused as you are in your career, I know it's challenging. So what are some of the things or steps that you took in order to develop it?
Well, like I said, the whole premise behind it was to give back and to help. And, playing seasons, 8, 9 months, and then coming home, you're just home in the summer. You see family and a lot of leisure time. At the time, I wasn't coaching. I was coaching AAU, but we hadn't taken that step where we were like nationally known. So I just wanted to give back and to provide platforms for people that were in the same position that I was. And that's kind of it's been the whole midst of it. It's just to provide platforms to help people that otherwise wouldn't be seen, that would slide through the cracks, just to kind of give them to shine a light on them. Because everybody has a story. Everybody comes from some kind of struggle, or they've had to deal with something that's helped propel them. So
Absolutely.
my thing was with Immaculate Training was, we need to find those guys, and we need to help put guys or girls, and we need to help put them in a situation to succeed.
And so you've gone on with Immaculate Training, and you have a total of 7 exposure camps where 300 plus guys that have attended have also played professionally. So in order to do that while you have been playing, and you and I have discussed this before in regards to networking, you had to network while you were playing to even develop those exposure camps. Now, remember, what's common to you and me in this conversation is not necessarily common to everyone. So could you describe to us, what is an exposure camp?
An exposure camp would be a 2 to 3, maybe 2 to 4 hour slot where there are cameras on you. Now it's a little different than what it was in the past, but essentially there's a platform, you're an athlete, and whatever you're coming into that camp for, you have it's like a job interview. And this is your job interview. You have a 2 to 4 hour window to impress everyone that's watching. And obviously we're going to play basketball, but we're going to do a lot of things that are going to show who you are. So interviews, testimonials. And like I said, nowadays, I like to live stream everything. That way I could just have coaches from all over the world watching. And a lot of times they're zeroing in on 1 or 2 players, and you can kind of see who they really are within the interviews, what they want. You can kind of see how they interact with others. So it's really a job interview, those exposure camps. And I tell guys, I said, hey, just, treat it like a job interview. You come into a job interview prepared. You come into a job interview knowing what's going on and expecting to get a job. So that's my whole thing with the exposure camps. I'm not guaranteeing you that you're going to get success, but I can say that if you're ready, if you're prepared, somebody will see you, somebody will notice you. And if you put the pieces together, then it can lead to an opportunity to jumpstart your career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've seen the men that come through, and they are hungry. They are definitely willing to showcase who they are. And, you have scouts and coaches from all over the world tuning in. So that is amazing. And then you've had 20 plus pro workouts, and that includes coaches, GMs, and agents. So what are the pro workouts?
So that's something that I started to do a few years ago. You just would have, as Immaculate Training grew and as the pro exposure camps became popular, I would have coaches write me and call me and say, hey, I'm in town. Are you having a workout? And I'm like, I work out every day. Yes, of course. So it got to the point where, Coach Sherri, where coaches were coming into town or scheduling days to come into town to like just show up to a regular workout that I'm having. And I'm like, all right, it's getting to the point where people are flying in to watch me work out. So I'm able to connect with other professional players. And when a coach comes in, there may be a group of 10 or maybe a group of 15 guys, and we would just work out in front of a coach. And what happened was guys started getting contracts. Like I had a coach from Canada come in, and he looked at me. He was like, I like 4 guys in here. And it led to those guys getting opportunities. And it just was a regular workout, just a normal workout. So I started to do more of those because of the demand of the coaches and the people that were coming in. And it just took off.
And see, that's giving so unselfishly because you are still playing yourself, you know, and you're still giving other players that opportunity to get contracts and become employed doing what they love. And that's something I've never seen. Like, do you know anybody else doing that in any league, any sport? Do you? Tell me. I'm waiting.
No, I you hear well where I got it from was from like Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and even like some of the stories that I heard about Jordan and like how they would do camps, obviously in the off season and stuff like that, but they would do stuff. And like, for an example, Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson had a camp back in the day, like up in the Chicago area. And like, apparently the camp inspired so many other players that eventually became NBA players or eventually played long careers. So like, I was like, man, like if the greatest of all time can give back, why can't I sit here and give back? Like, I'm not going to sit here and hold on to this knowledge or have a coach come in and not call this young guy over here that I know can benefit from it. Like, I'm all about helping the next generation, because if I can help them, then guess what? They're going to help the people that's going to come around them. So it's like a chain, and I'm figuring if I could get that thing started, then it'll work its way out.
Yes, and that's why you continuously are blessed, and that's amazing.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So you had 3 tour teams that traveled to Croatia, Estonia, and Latvia.
Yes.
Okay. What are your tour teams and how are they selected?
So the tour teams, it's essentially, we took the AAU concept. So you kind of build a team and, 8 to 10 guys, you build a team and you take them over to a country and you participate in that country's preseason. And, it's 2.5, 3 weeks. And essentially the tour team, you'll play 6 to 8 games against competition. And if somebody likes you, if you do what you're supposed to do on the tour team, you'll get signed. And I've had, every year I get 2 to 3 guys that go on those tours. They get signed. And so it's been a staple of what we do. The guys that go on the tours love it. The coaches that coach the tour teams, they love it. Not only is it a basketball experience, but it's a cultural experience too, because I've been able to have set this platform for guys that never, ever been out of the country. And I've had guys call me and say, man, I would have never left the country had I not went on your tour. Or I would have never seen what I've saw had I not been on your tour. So, yeah, it's just a great platform. And we usually do a camp where we select guys from the camp that we feel like, show the ability on the court and the talent on the court to, maybe get an opportunity. And then I like guys that are hungry and eager and have that passion. I kind of stay away from the individuals that are that feel like they're entitled, that feel like they're owed something. Like, no one's going to give you anything in the real world. You're going to have to go get it. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to understand how to get it. So I like to cater to people that kind of reach out to me and that ask for my help. Yeah, I'll help you. Whereas somebody's like, I got this or I got that. And I'm just like, okay, like we talked about, take your ego out of it. So
that's right. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Your tour team sounds like it is the beginnings of you having your own team in the future, because what happens is you're taking the steps, like God has put it into you to do this. Like, I want to reach back. I want to help. And you took action. Some people have it in them to do that, but they don't take action. And because you're doing it even on this level where you are taking them to the preseason, someone is watching you do that. It's no one that you can see. it's someone watching that might be your benefactor that will say, you know what, I'm going to bankroll your team. You seem to select a good group of guys. You seem to have a good discernment on the coaching staff, and I would love to see you develop this. And I want, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
I'm trying to tell you, Brandis, I'm excited for you. Wow, that's awesome. I love it. Okay, so now we're talking about your future. All right.
Okay.
On a personal level, where do you see yourself in 3 years?
In 3 years, I just see that my short-term goals are accomplished. I see myself and my wife in a better family situation financially. 3 years, I still want to, hopefully I still am in good health and physically and mentally and smarter. And just on the business side, I want to be in a situation where my finances and my business and everything has gone to another level. So, and I like to keep my goals internal. I like to keep my goals to myself. So, so I can kind of push forward to get them. But yeah, that's just kind of where I see myself in 3 years. I just see everything going to a whole nother level. And, I want my Immaculate training to be something that's globally known. And I'm blessed to be able to have been on different continents and been in different countries. But ultimately, I want, when people think of Immaculate training and think of Brandis Raley-Ross and Ashley Raley-Ross and everybody associated, I want them to say, hey, they touched a lot of people. They touched a lot of people globally, not just in the States, but all over. They touched a lot of people. So that's just kind of where I see myself in about 3 years.
That's an amazing legacy to leave. Now, I know that you didn't want to go into too many specific details, but have you written all of those goals, all the details of where you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, the legacy that you and your wife are going to leave for the world? Have you written them down specifically?
Of course. That's one of the first things that, I have so many sticky notes right now all over the wall. And because you need that visual evidence, and you never can let a thought go to waste. So I'm always, and then there's a lot of self-correcting and auto-correcting where a goal that I may have written down in January, it may change now. Maybe I want to tweak it and make it a better goal or make it a harder goal for me to accomplish. I had a wise man tell me, somebody that I really respect. He said, your goals should scare you, Brandis. You should never sell yourself short of what you want to be in life. So I write down every single thing I want to accomplish, every single thing I want to do with basketball, every single thing I want to do outside of basketball. Even small goals is just like me and my wife. I want our marriage to be stronger, and I want our marriage to be better. Things like that. Those are all goals, whether they be short-term goals, whether they be 1 month goals, 6 month goals, or year-long goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Look at you. This has been so powerful. And I just get so much out of conversations with you. And you and I haven't spoken verbally to each other in 2 years, maybe. But this feels
like
a while. This feels like yesterday.
It does.
I'm so proud of you and all that you're doing. And I always just wish you, as well as Coach Ashley, the absolute best, because y'all are a great couple and doing great things. And it doesn't even matter. Trust me, God sees everything. That's something my mother always told me. Don't worry about anything because God sees everything. Not that you're worrying about anything, but just know that everything you're doing, it's going to come to something amazing. It's going to grow. And I'm just I'm just here to let you know that I'm supporting you the whole entire way. I love it all. I
I
really
really
do.
appreciate it, and you've been such a such help for myself and my wife, and when we first met you, Coach Sherri, you know, we were unsure of a lot of things. Like you were just what we needed and just what we were kind of praying for, because you know you came in and just that positive energy, and you you helped me a lot with just public speaking and getting me on the phone and doing these interviews. And you wouldn't believe some of the interviews that I've done overseas, and I killed it and I knocked it out of the park. And I was like, you know what? I don't do that well with that interview unless, you know, Coach Sherri, you know, I credit that to Coach Sherri. So you've been there and you've helped us, and you really have been a career coach as far as all the things that you taught us, and all the things that you have spoken to us. And it was really a joy to coach your daughters and to be around you guys. I mean, those experiences we can't take back, and we wouldn't change for anything. I didn't mean to make you cry, Coach.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. You always like I told all my younger guys that reach out to me. I'm just like, they're like, man, where do you get this information from? And I'm just like, I've been, you know, blessed to be around the right kind of people, and you're definitely one of those people, Coach. I wish, you know, when things change, and obviously when we're able to kind of be around each other more later in the summer, I definitely would want you to meet some of these new guys that I've come in contact with. There's guys that definitely need to speak to you about what it takes and what to understand, and how to go about things.
Oh, I'm sorry. Definitely, it would be my pleasure. You know, I'm here to support in any way I can, near or far, and just always know that you have the Jones family behind you, and you know, every step of the way. And you know, God has you all so lifted up, and you do everything with such a pure heart, and that's another thing that I so appreciate about you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I want to read some of these messages. Thank you so much, Sister Fifi Tyson, for that prayer. She says, Father, we thank you for bringing it to pass, and in Jesus' name, everything shall come to pass. Absolutely. Amen.
Yes.
Good.
Amen.
Monique Scott says, good stuff. Thank you for sharing. And Sister Fifi Tyson is bringing it in. She says, Father, we thank you for bringing his goals and ours as well to pass. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Yes, amen.
And Monique Scott says, we do too. The Scott family wish you the best. And Coach Ashley, sending love, light, and prayers to you all. Billy Pick 42 says, great interview, Sherri. Thank you, Billy Pick 42. I'm not familiar with you, but I appreciate you for being here. Great insight, Brandis, brother. It will happen for you and your wife. And thank you, Sister Fifi. Coach is amazing. I'm putting Billy's up there as well. Immaculate training, Coach Sherri rocks. Thank you. Oh yes, Kim. My cousin Kim says good tears, and these are tears of joy. They really are. And Sister Fifi says this is so beautiful. Oh, I am a mess. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
My cousin. She said, Aunt Jessie, that's my mother.
Oh wow.
Is smiling down on you. And I'm doing like the ugliest cry. I'm sorry. I
It's
didn't
all
mean this
right.
at all. You know, this
It's
is, I don't
okay.
do this. Not what I do. Okay. Um, before we close, Brandis, do you have any questions for me?
Uh, yeah, I have a couple. Just for anybody that's needing, so for an individual that's having issues, I would say one thing, Coach, that I see with the generation of guys that I've come in contact with, these 20, 21, 22 year olds, is that they're all having issues surrounding themselves with the right woman, like that, like, or maybe it's a female and they're having issues finding the right men. So I'm sometimes I see myself in a position where I'm getting asked, advice about like, uh, hey, Coach B, I have this girlfriend over here. She wants me to do ABC, and um, I want to do this. And they're like, how can we make it work? So I'm trying to work with that because I'm new to that. But what kind of advice can I give these guys just about the partner that they choose to go on their journey with them? What kind of advice, or what should they be looking for?
Yes, definitely. They should be looking for a helpmate, someone that is supportive of them near or far. Someone that has their own thing going on, that's not solely reliant on them. For instance, being a helpmate doesn't mean that they are just so focused, laser focused on what you're doing and not focused on what they're doing. Being a helpmate means that they will ride or die for you.
Yeah.
Like if you say, all right, if you tell Coach Ashley, I want to retire, she's okay with that. If you say, I'm going to this country, she's okay with that. But she still has her own thing going on. Someone that's going to prevent you from doing what has been set forth for you, and discourage you and not encourage you, that's not the right person. I totally believe that when the woman has her own thing, big or small as well, I'm not saying she has to be a high corporate executive or anything like that, but that she has her own life, and that you're not just her life, but you're just part of her life, and she is part of your life. When you could be part of each other's lives, I think that's what's most important. And also, I'm trying to tell you, praying for that helpmate is really important. I've been praying for my kids, my legacies, my children. I've been praying for their spouses since they were 3 years old.
Wow.
Because I knew that by the time they were 3, their spouses were probably born. Mm-hmm. And so I've been praying that their spouses are having a great experience, that no harm, hurt, or danger has come to them, that no one has treated them ill, and that they are able to receive a good person, a good helpmate themselves, and that they are grooming themselves to be a great helpmate. And so you could pray for that for yourself as well, so I would tell them to pray for what they want. Be very specific. When I coach someone on how to get a new career, and sometimes people might come to me and say, Coach Sherri, I just want a job, any job. I'm like, that's what you'll get. So if someone says, I want a woman, any woman, a man, I just want a man, that's what you'll get. So
Exactly.
Being very specific, just like you would with your job, and targeted, will help you find the right person for you. And it's more than just exterior. It's so much more than that. When I met my husband, I was working on a mayor's campaign, as well as coaching girls basketball. I had an all-star team, plus working in Manhattan on Wall Street. So yeah, he and I did a lot of things together. He did a lot of things that I invited him to, just as I went to things he invited me to, because he knew I had a life and I knew he had a life. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really important.
Okay, that's great. Those are great words. I know that will definitely touch a lot of the younger generation that I work with. So
definitely having someone waiting at home for you to, wait on your call, waiting at your beck and call, that's not the thing.
Exactly.
That's not it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tell the guys and the young females that I come in contact with, I just say, hey, it's important who your partner is, who your significant other is. That's extremely important, and your goals have to align, and there has to be that that positive and that spiritual connection between you two, because now you can go further than you would go alone.
Yes.
So that's just been a big thing. And I sometimes find myself being a career coach to these guys. I mean, Coach Sherri, it goes from talking about basketball to talking about what you and I just discussed to a number of other subjects. So it's amazing.
It's all connected. It's all connected. And it all deals with being self-aware. So they have to know what they're bringing to the table. And I don't know, have you and Coach Ashley ever read or are privy to the book about love languages?
We're actually reading that right now. I know she's reading, Coach Ashley's reading it.
You need to read it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need that. I definitely need to read it.
Yes, absolutely. We're 25 years in and have just read it probably in the past couple of years. And that's something I wish I would have known a lot earlier, because our love languages are different in terms of what we need. And we both were respectful of each other, even though we didn't understand the language. But now that we do, it's like the appreciation is so much greater, so much greater. So definitely that's a great book. I remember when my son was 15 and had his first girlfriend, and she always wanted to spend time with him. And I was like, you know what? She's got to go, because you are booked and busy. And I have a problem with her not being booked and busy. She's just home waiting on you. That's not what we're talking about. And so I gave the relationship 6 months before I did my intervention. They broke up though just before the 6-month mark, because that was only going to last months in my book. So because that's not what I prayed for. She's not that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's so important, because I know so many guys that get the wrong advice from somebody that's close to them, and it derails them. It knocks them off the course, or their goals change, or they'll lower the quality of their goals. And I just find that it's tough to kind of get guys back on track. But it's a different generation, so we have to be able to touch those guys also, and young people.
Absolutely. And Sister Fifi says, make sure they are compatible in the natural and the spirit. Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely. Wow. Because it's not about the perception of society, and especially with basketball, with these shows, these reality shows, and people think, oh, they have to look like this or act like that's reality. People need to understand that is not real life. I know in football, the divorce rate is 80%, which is extremely high.
Wow.
And because sometimes they get what society thinks, and it's not about society. This is a life partner. You are taking vows, the good, the bad, the indifferent, sickness and in health. And you have to realize that if you're growing old together, that person's not going to look like they did at 20, 25. So you have to like as well as love your spouse. That's very important. Very important.
Couldn't have been said any better than that.
Absolutely. So I have these cards, and they're from the Red Table Talk that Jada Pinkett Smith does. And it's these questions. And so I'm just going to ask you this question before we close. What's brought you the most unexpected joy recently?
The most, or the best joy recently, I would say the success of others around me, my wife, other people in my family, my brother. I would say just seeing the people that are around you, that are in your immediate circle, seeing those people be successful with whatever they're chasing or in their life, that brings me joy, because I know that, I'm around the right people, or, I'm giving out positive information. I know that I helped out or had a lot of younger individuals seek my guidance and seek my help. And I gave them what I could. I gave them all the wisdom that I could, and I didn't feel like it was taking away from me. And to see all those guys be successful and see my wife become a college coach, like go from AAU to college coach and have success with it, all that stuff brings me joy.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to let you have the last word with that. And Brandis, as I've said this before several times, this is not going to be your last visit on this channel with me, because I so enjoy it. And I know that so many people got a great message from you. I appreciate you. I love you and Coach Ashley, and I wish you all the best. I also want to thank Sister Fifi Tyson, Kim Schuler, Monique Scott and the Scott family. Be different. Oh, I want to. Why is her? It's like a Be the Difference clothing. I know Candy's Pandy Hair and More was up here. And what was the guy's name? Let me see. Billy Pick 42 and Big Bia. It was quite a few people here. A lot of people were just, listening in and maybe didn't make it to the chat. But the great thing about this is that it has been recorded and will be up on YouTube. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so we have a ton of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you have any questions or you want to know anything about, anything that's going to happen later in the summer, just reach out to us there, and somebody will respond back shortly.
Absolutely. And I have your contact information up, immaculatetrain@gmail.com. That's his email, and that's the best form of communication. Or I know your IG, like you said, your Facebook, and those would be Immaculate Training, right? That they would look you up.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Brandis. And I hope that you have a great rest of the evening. And what's coming up for you in the future? Like, you're home now, but what's coming up for the future? So we'll know where to. So you're our new favorite international basketball professional player.
I really appreciate, Coach, you having me on, and it's always a pleasure to conversate and have, this experience with you. But what we have in the future is, we're gonna be very, very patient with what we do, because I know that there's a pandemic going on right now, so we have to be respectful to everybody that's affected with what's going on. But after that, I would definitely like to continue to provide that platform for athletes of all ages, and just kind of help out as much as I can, especially because we're all moving to uncharted territories, where there's a lot of young females and young males out there that didn't get the opportunity to be seen by colleges.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And they're going to need that advice. And I think now more than ever, individuals like myself who've been there, we have to set platforms for people coming after us to help them out, because 2020 has been something totally different.
It has something totally different. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until we speak again, please remember to stay safe, because this has been Real Talk with Coach Sherri and Brandis Raley-Ross. Thank you.